It's safe to say that the Alpe du Zwift is the platform's signature climb. It's not the longest because now you can get to the Mont Ventoux on the France map, and it's not the steepest either. That's the radio tower at the top of the epic KOM. But it is the one that Zwifters will keep coming back to. Now, I'm sure you know this, but the Alpe du Zwift is faithfully modelled on the 21 hairpins of the real-life Alpe d'Huez climb, which is, of course, an iconic Tour de France stage finish and on the bucket list for most cyclists. If you're a reasonably fit rider, then the Alpe du Zwift takes somewhere around an hour to complete. Now, if you're aiming to get under that magic hour mark, or you just want to improve on your personal best, whatever it is, then here are our 7 top tips for doing the Alpe faster. If you've got any suggestions of your own, stick them in the comments below, and make sure you subscribe for more vids from us. Hit the bell icon to get notified when they land. So, let's get ourselves a bit faster. The accepted wisdom of the Alpe du Zwift is that to climb it in under an hour, you need to average about 3.2 watts per kilo from the bottom to the top. Now that tallies with my experience of the climb. My last sub-hour ascent was 59.48 at an average power of 293 watts, and I was 92 kilos, so that's 3.18 watts per kilo. So the bottom line is, you need to be able to go that hard for that long. If you're there or thereabouts, then some of the tips in this list might help you to sneak over the line if you haven't managed it yet. If you're not really at that sort of level, or you're well above it, then clearly the hour mark is just one obvious benchmark. You might be aiming for an hour and a half or 45 minutes. It doesn't really matter. Much of the advice here remains the same. You'll need to adjust your goal, but the first takeaway is to make sure you know what it is you'll need to do. In the description below, there's a link to a really useful graph on Zwift Power that will give you a good idea of the kind of watts per kilo numbers you'll need to sustain for a given time on the climb. There's a handy formula too that gives a good approximation, which is popping up now. It's pretty simple really. Subtract 3.5 from the number of minutes you're looking to do the climb in, divide 180 by that number, and that'll give you your target watts per kilo. So for 45 minutes, it would be 180 divided by 41.5, which works out at 4.3. Easy. The sum, I mean, not doing the Alpe at that speed. Out in the real world, you wouldn't bring your TT bike to a hill climb, and the same is true in Zwift. Picking the right frame set and wheels is going to shave a significant chunk off your time. Which bikes are available to you will depend on what level you've reached in the game and how much of the in-game currency drops you've amassed while riding. Now, if you've reached level 6, which is the level at which the Alpe du Zwift is unlocked, then you can buy the specialised Tarmac SL7, assuming you have enough drops. And on an hour's climb, that will shave about half a minute off your time compared to the stock Zwift carbon frame, all other things being equal. The SL7 is expensive though, so you might not have enough drops if you're just starting out. The cheaper Cannondale Evo frame, unlocked at level 9, is a marginally better climber and a lot cheaper. In terms of wheels, what you really need is the lightweight Meilensteins. But the only way to get them is to climb the Alpe and spin the roulette wheel at the top. You can't buy them, so it's just down to dumb luck and a lot of grinding up the climb. They're worth about 15 seconds over the stock wheels though. For stuff you can actually buy, the MV SES 3.4 wheels are available at level 4 and will save you 10 seconds or so. So with the frame and fork together, there's 3/4 of a minute of savings available from having the best kit for the job, which is not to be sniffed at. If you're close to your target, that might get you over the line. Now, if you're heading up the Alpe, it's tempting to select the road to sky route and just crack straight on with the climb. But anyone that's done any racing at any level will tell you that you're definitely not going to beat your best if you've had the minimum possible warm-up. For the Alpe climb, you need to be able to make a sustained effort from the first ramp all the way to the top, and for that, you want your legs to be fully warmed up. Now, in terms of routes, the Tour of Fire and Ice route is a good option. That starts at the volcano and adds about 13 kilometres of running to the bottom of the Alpe. That includes the bottom section of the epic KOM up to the bridge. So go easy on the flat section to warm yourself up a bit, then have a dig on the first climb. Go at or just above the kind of pace you'll need to sustain on the Alpe, and then back off across the bridge and down through the jungle. That way, you're properly warmed up, but you'll still be nice and fresh by the time you hit the Alpe. Now, an hour at high intensity is a long enough effort that you need to pay some attention to what you eat, both beforehand and during the ride. Now, there are masses of different strategies out there and different things work well for different riders, so I'm not going to lay down chapter and verse here, but do give your energy intake some thought. Eat something you know works for you a couple of hours before your effort, and don't overeat. Something like a gel or a bar, that can be handy as a pick-me-up on the ride itself. Often it's a psychological boost as much as it's anything, but it all helps. Make sure you have enough water to hand and use an electrolyte tab in your bottle. This kind of effort tends to make you cramp up. Now Zwift is really good at telling you how your Alpe ascent is going. So down the left-hand side there's a list of the hairpin sections and how long each one is. And when you're riding a section, Zwift tells you your average power and your heart rate for that section, so you can keep pretty close tabs on your effort. Getting to the top of the Alpe in a certain time is essentially a time trial, and if you ask any pro, they'll tell you that the most efficient way to ride a time trial is with a negative split. So start slower and finish faster. If you go out too hard and the wheels start to fall off near the top, you can lose big chunks of time, so keep your effort fairly conservative for the first quarter, a few percentage points under where you need to be to hit your target time. As an example, if you know that you need to average 250 watts for the whole climb, ride the first quarter trying to hit 240 for each section. Then assess how you're feeling, and if the signs are good, step up to your target power for the middle section of the climb, and then try and ramp things up a bit as you approach the top. This kind of approach is especially useful if you're riding on your own. Some people will tell you that you have to do the Alpe on 100% trainer difficulty or it doesn't count. Now there's only one instance in which that's true. If you're doing an Everesting attempt that you want to ratify on the Hells 500 website, then the rules stipulate you need to be on the maximum gradient simulation. If you're not, then ignore everyone else, you can do what you like. You have to put in the same amount of work to get to the top in a given time, no matter what you have the trainer difficulty set to. You can't cheat your way to the top. Well, you can, I rode it on an e-bike once, there's a link to the video there, but you can't with the trainer difficulty setting. That's not to say that all the settings are the same though. One of the settings will be the best for you, but everyone's different. If you're most used to putting out steady state efforts, say you've done some time trialing or you live somewhere flat, then dialing back the difficulty will make the climb feel more like that sort of an effort. If you prefer to feel and respond to all the different changes in gradient and you like to mix it up a bit in and out of the saddle, then a higher trainer difficulty will probably work much better for you. I'm somewhere in the middle. Setting the difficulty just below the default halfway position is ideal for me. That's enough of a resistance change that I can respond by dropping a gear or standing up when the gradient increases, depending on how I'm feeling, but not too much that I need to change too much or drop to the small rim. And lastly, get some competition. There's no doubt about it, trying to hang on to someone that's marginally faster than you is a great way of improving your time up the Alpe. Now, there are always loads of people doing the climb, so you might think that you can just find someone as you're riding to do battle with. In reality, it doesn't usually work like that. People coming past you are generally going quite a bit faster than you, so attempting to latch onto their coattails normally ends in tragedy a bit further up the climb, or it does for me. It's much better to start with someone who you know will test you on the climb. So if you have a friend who is capable of riding the Alpe a bit quicker than you, suggest a meet-up and try and stay on their wheel. I mean, it can still be a bit hit and miss, and again, you risk blowing up if you're trying to sustain a pace too far above what you're capable of. It's a fine balance. Another and often better option is a race. Find one that's doing the Alpe and go for it. By the time you're puffing up the lower slopes, the race will have splintered, and with any luck, you'll be left with a bunch of riders that are about the same ability as you. Then you can egg each other on all the way to the top. There's nothing like the fear of losing 39th place to some random stranger from the other side of the world to make you put in everything you've got on that last drag to the arch. So there you go, those are our 7 top tips for getting faster on the Alpe du Zwift. Do let us know your tips in the comments too. Hopefully, these tips will help you knock a bit of time off your personal best, and we'll see you on the slopes of the Alpe soon. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a like if you've enjoyed this video.